HP-ku satu lagi mana ya? Hahaha, mana deh? Halo, bentar aku harus post dulu di Instagram biar orang-orang pada nontonnya. Kita foto dulu. Kita foto dulu ya guys. Nih tempat kopi. Sama aku harus ngisi air dulu. Kenapa, Mam? Detresi. Bentar. Apa ya? Apa yang harus aku lakukan? Bentar. Oh ya, ada di sini. Hmm. Hmm. Bagaimana ini? Salah. Kenapa aku nggak bisa copy linknya ya? Hmm. 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 Hola, first pertama halo. Pertama yang masuk ke sini ke aku. Mana dia? Ke liveku. Mana sih? Bingung gak sih lo? Oh ini copy. Emang anaknya tuh rada-rada sesuatu sama Apple sih. Paste. Kalian boleh kan menunggu aku sebentar ya, aku ngedit ini dulu, terus aku mau live lagi. Let's go. Apa ya bagus? Hai, sebentar aku mau ngambil air putih dulu. Karena apa nih? Karena aku belum ngisi air putihku, bentar ya. Pengen makan tapi sayangnya. Makan apa? Bentar ya. Bentar. Mau ngisi air putih dulu. Halo. Aku habis ngambil air putih. Terus ini kabel headphones juga. Wah, panjang sekali kamu. Aku tuh mau nyobain main game baru ini tuh salah satu rekomendasi abang aku. Jadi kita coba ya, kita coba. Ntar ini kabel teh hijau tuh sedikit mengganggu ya. Selamat datang di channel aku. Buat yang nonton, aku lagi nyoba ini game namanya tuh judulnya Stanley Parable. Nggak tahu kayak gimana gamenya. Aku lagi ada jawab di sini, ganggu banget sumpah. Tapi mari kita coba main game horor kan sama Kak Jason. Nanti dibawa abis ini. Tadi Brian ngajakin main Valo. Cuman aku mau main ini dulu. Kalau seandainya nggak sempet, nanti coba paling main Phasmo. Ntar gerah. Ini adalah jerawat terindu Jimin. Jerawat terindu Jimina. Sarangeo Jimina. Gerah banget asli, sumpah ini aku harus nyolokin kipas bentar ya. Persiapannya banyak, say. Jerawat rindu Jimin. Jimin siapa ya Jiso? Jimin bukan siapa-siapa Jiso, Jimin tuh siapa-siapanya aku. Oke. Sudah disetting sedemikian rupa agar supaya nyaman. Oke, kita mulai ya. Let's start, guys. Have you played the Stanley Parable before? No. Ini kalian bisa dengar gak sih? Desktop audio bisa kan? Oh ya udah. Please adjust the slider until the computer is barely visible. Maksudnya? Gini maksudnya. Barely visible tuh maksudnya gini. Nggak kelihatan kan barely tuh. Please enter the current time. Sekarang jam 12.13. Hah? Jam 10 kan? Baru juga mulai. Sampai komputer hampir kelihatan. Oke. Ya kan? Jam 22.14. I love your voice. Thank you. I don't think I sound any nice. I mean, I don't think I sound that good, but ya udah. Accessibility settings can be accessed from the main menu. Okay. Itu gelap tuh kayaknya teh. Apa teh? Jelaskan ini? Jelaskah di kalian? Mungkin komputernya jangan sampai hilang tadi. Barely visible kan hampir kelihatan ya, tapi kan tadi masih kelihatan sih buat aku. Atau kita settingin lagi. Mana dia? Controls audio general. Field of view gimana maksudnya? Apa yang lagi aku settingin? Nyages kagok biar seru. Apa sih? Ya udahlah. Aku nggak ngerti. Kita coba saja. Kita begin the game. This is the
story of a man named Stanley.
Kalau aku main game teka-teki, I'm very bad.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
Nggak bisa di-pause ya?
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job.
Kenceng banget ya musik ya. Gimana kecil-kecilin ya?
Was happy.
Gimana?
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Bentar aku. Nah, ini settings. Audio. Segini kayaknya cukup lah ya. 50%. Okay, let's go back. Gue harus ngapain? Aku harus ngapain, guys? Ini jalan-jalan gitu.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Lagi libur lebaran
Stanley
ini.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Mana meeting room tuh?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh ini maksudnya. Oke, ngikutin nih. Masih pada cuti karena mudik. Lagi libur lebaran itu. Orang masih pada libur, dia masuk sendiri gimana sih? Aneh banget nih Stanley. Kasihan sekali dirimu.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Atau kayak hotel ada nomor kamar. Ada monsternya nggak, Kak?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to
Nggak
his
tahu,
boss's
kayaknya
office.
nggak ada. Aku nggak pernah main ini. Kayak kalian mainnya sama Akika. Bukan ini. Kayak sensitif banget. Bentar. Ini sensitivity, camera sensitivity ini gitu. Coba. Pusing banget gitu loh tadi lihat ya. Ini masih oke lah ya. Ingat. Mouse-nya juga kurangin. Oke, ini masih boleh lah. Pusing nggak? Anjir, gue pusing, bentar. Bener. Ganti dulu ini settingan sensitivitas mouse-nya. Harusnya apa ya? Kenceng banget ya? Merah biru. Bentar. Pusing banget kalau muter-muter gitu.
Staring into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Apa ini? Aku kena ini. Aduh, pusing banget. Pusing! Soalnya udah 1 loh sensitivitasnya. Ntar ini dari mouse-nya. Ntar aku ganti dulu. Biar. Ini terlalu wow.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Camera wobble. Enggak. Aman. Ini doang kok. Fine aja. Kalau main PUBG pasti pusing. Kayaknya nggak ada apa-apa di sini, kayak fine aja nggak sih? Pusing banget, sumpah aku mual. Kemarin aja aku mual game itu. Mereka cepet mual main game. Kayak udah sih. Lalu aku harus ngapain, Bang? Bang, udah ini Bang. Terus kemana? Oh, pintunya di sini toh. Astagfirullah. Let's go. What is this? Apos kayak ini. Ada ke monster? Nggak ada yang harus nggak ada ini gitu, nggak ada lampu gitu. Pencet aja ke bawah gitu. Pencet turun. Di usia tidak bohong. Pusing anaknya lah.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now?
Bentar, ada yang ngirimin social bus barusan, kenapa nggak ada bunyinya sama aku di aku? Coba kita refresh. Oh, ini kayak social busnya di mana sih? Kenapa nggak muncul ya dia? Bentar. Aku harus cek dulu sebelum aku main, biar orang-orang yang nge-support aku nggak kelewat gitu loh maksudnya. Lainnya, bentar. Terima kasih Valentine untuk dukungan semangatnya. Tapi ini kenapa aku tidak bisa mengulang? Oh, ini nih, replay alert on stream. Kok aku nggak bisa denger ya? Ada tuh itu. Ada itu dia. Apa yang salah? Social busnya monitor udah. Tapi kenapa nggak kedengeran sama aku? Oh, ini nih. Ini dia. Ini kalau nggak salah. Kita ulang ya guys. Kita coba lagi. Gimana aku cara nggak kedengeran sayur? Bentar, monitornya mana ya? Audio, monitor sudah ada. Kenapa nggak ada suaranya ya? Ya ada, tapi takut dikira bandingin kalau ingetin. Aku kan tidak bermaksud ya. Mana dia? Tapi kenapa nggak muncul ya suaranya di aku? Coba aku harus. Maaf ya, kalian masih di sini ngurusin settingan aku dulu sebelum kita bermain. Banner. Mana sih? Overlay. Nah, ini dia. Coba. Gak muncul. Dia aku nggak muncul. Kok nggak bisa dengar? Hmm. 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 Perasaan kemarin bisa, masa tiba-tiba ganti sih? Coba aku copy dulu. Copy. Social plus. Ini yang mana? Oh, bukan. Ini ya. Kita coba tesnya lagi, tes alert. Gak muncul juga, kenapa aku nggak bisa dengar? Control audio via OBS udah. Tapi ini gak ada suaranya. Perasaan kemarin ada deh. Kamu kenapa sih? OBS aku teh kenapa ya? Tuh, kagak ada suaranya. Hmm. 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 Bener padahal. Kenapa ya? Kenapa ya? Oh, kayaknya udah muncul di YouTube. Hey ho, Eci jadi pembuka subtitle ya sebagai duta European datang. Apakah tidak, mabar? Bentar aku mencari tahu kenapa nggak muncul di aku si overlaynya. Maksudnya overlaynya nggak ada suaranya. Kenapa? Kenapa? Jadi kalau settingan OBS aku udah bener juga. Audio, desktop audio, monitoring device-nya juga udah bener. Coba. Coba kalau misalnya aku ganti dia munculnya di mana? Kita tes dulu sayur. Kenapa? Oh, ini harus ditutup dulu. Oke. Mana? Kamu bikin aku emosi. Ini kali ya, coba. Coba. Kemarin pengen aja kok ada suaranya terus. Kenapa aku sekarang tidak ada suaranya ya? Aduh, sayur. Gak ada juga.
10.000 dari tes. Pesan, ini hanya tes notifikasi.
Gak muncul. Settingan sound aku berarti. Sound settings. Tapi udah bener input. Cek. Capek banget loh. Apa sih?
10.000 dari tes.
Kenapa
Pesan,
sih?
ini hanya tes notifikasi.
Kenapa sih? Kenapa sih? Masih pusing. Ada yang ngerti nggak social bahasa?
10.000 dari tes. Pesan, ini hanya tes
baru
notifikasi.
Muncul, tolong. Gue muter-muter. Astaga, kenapa sih kamu suka ngadi-ngadi, suka ganti-ganti, pengennya lagi muncul, nggak pengen muncul, ini udah baru muncul lagi. Oke, aku mau ngucapin terima kasih kepada Bang Valentine, thank you dukungannya. Terima kasih banyak ya. Oke, kita lanjut lagi gamenya ya. Setelah sekian lama dia seperti itu, gak muncul. Kamu salahin sosiabasnya, emang luar biasa. Oke, gimana pun notifnya emang suka sepengennya gimana dos ya. Oke,
For
kita
years,
start.
it had never occurred to him. This question would not go unanswered for long.
Apa itu? Apa itu?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Dia nggak aneh gitu datang-datang deh.
The
Kayak
lights rose on an enormous room
ternyata
packed
ada
with television
ruang
screens.
bawah
What horrible
tanah.
secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find it?
Dasu, kedasu. Oke, bisa loncat guys. Kirain bisa.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Wih, kamu ada di situ anjir. Ketahuan lu pada ngapain, weh. Makanya kalau di kantor jangan aneh-aneh. Makan gitu di ruangan tuh nggak boleh kan, makan di dalam kantor tuh, di dalam ruangan tuh nggak boleh kan. Hati-hati kalau kalian makan ketahuan nih. Mana ruanganku mana ya? 427? 427. Nah, itu. Ada di situ lah pokoknya. Oke. Kagak ada orang ya, bener-bener kosong ya, lagi pada libur lebaran, say. Senin kan baru masuk nih.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Astagfirullahaladzim.
100.000 dari Doni salah makan. Pesan, halo Esteheci.
Doni salah makan. Sekarang suara notif kekencengan, tapi bodo amat. Gak apa-apa kencengan, yang penting muncul, nggak kayak tadi ya. Terima kasih banyak ya Doni salah makan. Jangan salah makan dong. Makan yang bener coba.
In someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible?
Makanya jangan aneh-aneh di kantor oleh dokter yang doyan bobo di klinik. Gue. Aduh. Aku, anjir kalau misalnya aku di situ pas lihat tidur gitu ya kan, dari jam berapa sampai jam berapa masih aja tidur tuh orang ya. Untungnya aku nggak ada CCTV di ruanganku, haha. Jadi bisa bobo.
The heart of the operation, controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life, for he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Apa sih? Aku harus ngapain? Aku harus ngapain? Aku harus ngapain? Ini kah? Ini kah? Kok nggak bisa dipencet? Mana kamu? Oh ini, bukan, nggak juga. Apa? Apa? Aku harus kemana? Apa ini? Lalu, ini kan? Atau di sana? Oh, ada ruangan lagi guys. Lihat sini ya, kagak ada pencetannya soalnya. Halo teh, halo semongko.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Apa aku nyalain on aja guys? Gimana cara kerjanya? Gimana cara kita tahu dia sebetulnya bekerja kalau nggak dinyalain? Ya kan? Ya kan? Menarik. Apa ya? Aduh, ini tuh orangnya sengaja nyuruh aku pencet on gitu. Yaudah, aku off aja deh. Nurut.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone?
Lagi
How
mudik.
had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do.
Anjir, kagak kelihatan.
Whatever life he lives,
Oh, ya.
it
Masih
will
gelap.
be his.
Kamarnya di mana? Kamarnya masih
Was
kamar
all he
mama.
needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his
Bagus ya.
skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Hore. Apakah sudah selesai? Achievement, beat the game. Gambar comfort dog seluruh anggota keluarga. Astagfirullah, kaget lagi kan.
100.000 dari Doni Salah Makan. Pesan ini game apa teh?
Ini game story. Gambar comfort dog seluruh anggota keluarga. Betul. Ya, makasih banyak Doni Selamat. Makasih dukungannya ya. Coba ini game yang baru. Aku baru mainin sih sekarang, jadi aku juga nggak tahu ini game apaan. Tapi terima kasih dukungannya. Gambar comfort dog seluruh anggota keluarga. Oh ya, aku udah jawab belum sih? Oh iya. Jadi dia memang di dalam rumah. Dia satu-satunya anjing yang di dalam rumah. Coba di new game tapi jangan ngikutin om-omnya bilang ada ending lain. Oke. Apa ini aku balik lagi? Ini aku dari awal lagi. Oh, kita coba lagi gitu.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Have I
When
missed the
Stanley
memo?
came to a set of two open
kanan.
doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth
Minum dulu
admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all,
Habis minum.
just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully
Bikin
constructed
kopi ya.
room.
Oh, nggak bisa juga.
Stanley simply stood here, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Kita lurus lagi. Kita lurus aja. Si konsieneng gimana?
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Neng udah nggak nangis kok, udah fine-fine aja. Ayang jawab ya, halo Ayang.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else
10.000
can be
dari
difficult,
Isal,
but the
pesan
fact
ceban
is that the
pertama buat
story has
Stanley
been
beli
about
kopi
nothing
hidung
but
di
you
kantor.
all this time. There's
Makasih
someone you've been
banyak,
neglecting, Stanley.
Isal. Ini Stanley abis ini
Someone
beli
you've
kopi deh.
forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life.
Lepot anjir.
She's been waiting.
Oh ya Allah, kagak kelihatan apa-apa dah.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her.
Halo? Kenapa aku di sini?
Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, he can go on
100.000 dari Doni salah makan, pesan, ditunggu teh streaming ame-ame PST, Suikoden, Harvest Moon, Cot, Devil Make Cry.
It was wonderful. And each day that he
Nanti
returned to
aku
work was a
mainin
reminder that
game-game
none
itu
of
ya.
it would ever happen to him.
Suikoden.
And so
Pernah
he
aku
began
main
to
itu.
fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Terima kasih banyak ya Bang Doni salah makan. Boleh itu nanti buat game-gamenya ditulis aja di komen. Jadi aku bisa mengingat game-game apa ya saja yang udah direkomendasikan. Terima kasih banyak ya. Buat jajan game itu teh, ya kan? Ya kan?
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this.
Tidur dia
that in
tidur.
this world, he can never be anything but an observer. that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do
10.000
not
dari
do it.
Isal. Pesan, kasihan Stanley istrinya manekin nu di matahari.
You see?
Kasihan banget.
Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll
Kasihan
understand that
banget
every
Stanley ya
second he
tidak
remains here
pacar
is
pacar
electing
istrinya
to
begitu.
kill himself? How can I
Terima
get him to
kasih.
see
100.000 dari
Isal.
Ranger Hitam. Pesan, aduh kaget.
Hai pacarku. Halo juga pacar. Siapa pacar? Stardew Valley tapi mirip Harvest Moon tapi lebih luas ceritanya. Oke. Makasih banyak Ranger Hitam. Aku juga kaget tiap kali ada notif, tapi kalau misalkan aku kecilin notifnya hilang gitu loh. Hilang suaranya.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as
Dia masih di
Stanley.
sini.
We're not so different, I suppose.
Kenapa nggak bisa keluar
I'll
anjir?
try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Hah? Apa itu? Kenapa? Kenapa? Ya Allah. Ya kenapa muncul lagi anjir?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
I don't know. What do you
Stanley
think it
decided to go to the
means?
meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed
No,
a
I did
memo.
not miss a memo. Kita balik lagi ya.
When Stanley came to a set of two
Kita
open
kesini,
doors,
kita
he
sini.
entered the door on his
Bodoh.
left.
100.000 dari Doni salah makan. Pesan, mau kasih game Getting Over It
Yet
teh
there was
tapi
not a
harus
single
ditamatin
person here
ya.
either. Feeling a wave of
Oke,
disbelief,
boleh.
Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office.
Nanti
hoping
aku
he might
tamatin
find an
gamenya.
answer there.
Nanti sambil nge-stream ya. Dikirim aja ke ID Steam aku, oke?
Coming to
Terima
a
kasih, baik.
staircase,
Kita turun aja
Stanley
bodoh.
walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Wiu.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was
Kita
crazy.
beli kopi
And
hitam
then
dulu.
something
10.000
occurred to
tadi dari
Stanley. Maybe,
Sal
he
tadi.
thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no
Kenapa
reason
gue
at all.
bolak-balik ke sini?
None of it made any logical sense. And as
Bener
Stanley
kan?
pondered this, he began to
11
make
kan?
other strange observations.
Anjir.
For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
Weh.
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were
Anjir,
they
sama
simply
sama.
repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange.
Anjir,
This
gue
can't be
kemana
real.
ini? Tolonglah.
He came to the conclusion that it had been on his tip. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
Mau balik gue
Yeah.
gimana? Muter-muter
This
terus
is
di
all
sini
a
tuh.
dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He
Ayolah.
wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Eh,
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had
Stanley
still not
is
woken
on
up.
what substance lah?
How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my
100.000
head
dari Doni salah
dictating
makan.
everything that I'm
Pesan,
doing and
teteh
thinking?
percaya diri sekali bisa
Now the
namatin
voice
game
was
Getting Over
describing
It.
itself
Aku
being
suka
considered by
semangatnya.
Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming.
Terima kasih banyak dukungannya. Aku gak tahu sih bakal dapatin atau enggak, tapi aku akan berusaha. I will try ya. Yang penting kita berusaha, oke? Mau tamat atau enggak, aku akan coba. Yuk, semangat yuk, bisa yuk. Aku aja nggak tahu itu game apaan.
Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep he doesn't
Gue
have to take
bolak-balik kayak gini
responsibility
kagak.
for himself?
Tolonglah.
Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
Like,
Now,
when
hearing the
is this
voice
gonna
speak
end?
these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would
Jam
prove
scare-nya
that
itu
he was in control.
notif
That
Sociabuzz.
this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
I'm okay. Enggak, lu balik lagi ke sini, oncom, buset dah.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I?
Ini orang kasihan banget.
And everything went black.
Kasihan banget tuh orang ya. Stanley ini kayaknya harus
This is
bertemu
the
dengan
story of a woman named Mariella.
psychiatrist kayak.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man...
Kasian
made
banget
her
sumpah
feel
meninggoy
better.
dia.
But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment
Jokowi
that
outfit
she
pakai
stood
celana
there,
hitam.
staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Oke, kita coba lagi ya. 427.
All of his
427.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either.
Besok.
Feeling a wave of
Besok balik lagi,
disbelief,
say.
Stanley decided to go up to his
Senin.
boss's
Senin
office.
balik lagi.
Hoping he
Ntar
might
pada
come into a
rame lagi dah.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Astagfirullahaladzim. Kaget
100.000
mulu.
dari Doni salah makan. Pesan baik teh, semoga punya kesabaran tingkat tinggi ya mainin gamenya.
Terima kasih
Allah with you
banyak.
teh.
Terima kasih banyak. Doni salah makan. Thank you.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an
420.
indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered
20.000
aloud.
dari Fahri.
He
Pesan,
began
Dor,
wildly
nih
tearing
jam
through
scare-nya.
papers on the boss's desk,
Notif
pulling
Sociabuzz.
books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But
Terima
his
kasih
attention was caught by a
banyak. Dari siapa
keypad
nih?
behind the boss's
Fahri.
desk. What could its purpose be?
Luar
In fact,
McD.
this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck.
Oke.
He stepped into the newly opened
Kita coba di
passageway.
onin lagi. Kita on. Kita on. Yang tadi. On. Mind control.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Sini aja deh.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Ya udah, kita meninggoy lagi aja yuk. Kita cobain. Gimana dia
The door
meninggoynya?
behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn
No.
around and get back on track.
No.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Yes. Anjir, mati beneran gua. Tuh cobain dulu. Ya. Oh, enggak ada bunyi apa-apa. Dah enggak. Enggak apa-apa. Kirain kenapa. Terus? Oh,
As the
udah.
machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer
Anjir!
to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life.
Ya!
Farewell, Stanley.
No. Oh, enggak.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws.
Selamat
In
tinggal
a
kamu.
single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Wow. You poor soul. Kagak jadi mati gue. Oh, atau udah meninggoy sebenarnya dia. This is his afterlife gitu ya. Who knows? Oh ya. Maaf Kak, udah 5 watt dari tadi. Off dulu. Oke, sobat.
And yet it would be just a
Malam.
few
Selamat
minutes
tidur.
before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What
Banget ya. Thank
exactly
you.
did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
The set of the 2 open doors was the very first concrete piece of Stanley Parable's design. Once this room was created, the rest of the game emerged as an extension of it, an exploration of the contradiction this room posed. Terus kita kesini. Kita baca-baca ya. Corridor. The pacing of this opening section was important to get right. This corridor has been moved and altered to make sure the player reaches the 2 doors in a good time. Office layout. The blueprint shows the office from the beginning of the game. The path from Stanley's office to the 2 doors was the first part of the game that was built. Sections have been added and altered throughout development through the core layout remains almost identical to the first iteration. Kamu sudah mati ya. Kita balik lagi. Gimana caranya? Oh, nggak bisa buka. Button sounds. Oke. Nggak penting. Oh, ada kreditnya. Terima kasih. Jadi ada floor plan kantornya. Ada boss office-nya. Ini kemana? Jadi kemana? Kesini kita. Menarik. Kenapa ada beginian juga? Perasaan tadi nggak ada gini-gini. Apa ini? Apa ini? Ini apa ini? Punya apa itu? Apa ini? Apa ini? Apa ini? Apa ini? Oh, ini exit, kita exit ya.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save those two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let
Madep. Kita ulang, kasihan banget dia. Benyek. Wow, oke.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Tadi pada
Stanley
ngelewatin,
decided to
pada
go to the
escape
meeting
tuh,
room.
terus jadi
Perhaps he had
benyek
simply
semua
missed
itu.
a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open
Stanley
doors,
geprek.
he entered the door on his left.
Stanley geprek, guys. Kasihan dia. Kasihannya dia.
Yet
Ngulang
there
lagi.
was not a single person here
Nggak,
either.
kita cobain.
Feeling a wave
Aku
of
nggak ngulang sih.
disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his
Tapi nggak ngulang.
boss's office. Coming to a
100.000 dari
staircase,
Rainer
Stanley
Bangsawan.
walked upstairs to
Pesan,
his boss's
randomly
office.
phone your stream. RU Rhino Assis. I think we met before.
Halo. Siapa? Bentar, aku harus baca dulu ini kagak kebaca dengan jelas. Coba. Apa itu? Dia ngomong apa, Rainer? Randomly found your stream. Are you Rainer sis? I think we met before. Yes, thank you so much, Rainer, for the dukungan Sofia Basia. I am Raino's sister. Thank you so much for watching my stream.
100.000 dari Ranger Hitam. Pesan, RIP Stanley.
RIP Stanley. Kasihan banget Stanley. Itu nanti aku sampaikan ya dukungannya kepada keluarga yang ditinggalkan. Ini aku dimandes ya. Itu apa yo? Kok nggak bisa dibuka? The executive bathroom. Siapa tahu aku kepengen pipis gitu loh maksudnya. Bisa dipakai gitu? Nggak bisa. Alright. Kagak ada banget gue, nggak ada mukanya say. Oke. Cireng, laci digoreng. Jadi cireng,
The moment he
anjir.
entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take. Too much for any man to
Berapa sih?
take.
248,
He fell
berapa
to
sih?
his knees, bursting into half moans, half sobs, the guttural retching of life from a man denied any hope, any reason to keep going. Here on the floor he lay prone, paralyzed by fear for nearly a full hour. But when at last he began to move about and survey the situation, he found a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could it mean? Was it a
Hilang
sign
terus
of
sampai
hope
lebaran
for
di
Stanley's future? Alas, it was not. For although this keypad guarded the terrible secret of Stanley's past, It had been assigned a 4-digit code so devious and so random that no man could ever hope to guess it. 2845. Statistically, nearly impossible to guess blindly, ever. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck.
Oke, kita coba
He stepped into the
menyalakan.
newly opened passageway.
Tadi kan ya, kita nyalain lagi ya si mind control. Nanti yang chat tentang yang tadi apa-apa. Oke. Oke.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
BTW, this is like very very shady, you know, that escape tuh, tulisan escape tuh shady banget. Terus ngapain gua ke sana gitu. Tapi ya it's orang in the right mind would never go that way because it's so shady, you know. Nah.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Ada kayak gak sabaran guys ya.
No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life
Empire
in someone
pirate.
else's control.
Pirate.
Never. It was
Pirate.
unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley... I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation.
Stanley tidak sabaran.
In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex.
Terus gue mati lagi dong.
Then, let's say 2 minutes.
Anjir, terus gue
Now this is
ngapain?
making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it.
Apa sih?
Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But
Gue
what
pencet
precious
apa?
moments
Oh my
each one of
god,
them
no.
is. More time to talk about you. about me, where we're going, what all this means.
Oh,
I barely
satu di
know
mana?
where to start.
Kita cari dulu mana angka
What's that?
satunya.
You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated?
Oh my
All right,
god.
I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone.
Apa?
Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it
Damn,
burn to
son.
a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I want
Seriusan?
to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My
Kayak aku.
goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know
Apa
what?
yang harus
To
aku
hell with it.
lakukan?
I'm
Tidak ada
going to
yang
put
bisa
some
aku
extra
lakukan.
time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees.
Precious
Oh,
gimana?
dear
Gue
me,
ngapain?
what's the
Gue
matter, Stanley? Is it that you have
Apa
no
itu?
idea where
Katas,
you're
ada
going
apa itu
or what you're
katas?
supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you.
4.
Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button. Or this
Astagfirullah, kayak gitu.
door.
10.000 dari
Something
Isal,
here will
pesan,
save me.
main until daun
Why do
atau
you think
dreadout
that,
pasti
Stanley?
Resi makin
That this
bahagia
video game
wajah
can be
tersenyum.
beaten? One solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for
Awalu.
quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge, it's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't.
Goodbye, employee
Take a look at the clock.
427.
That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go
Apa ini?
peacefully?
Apa
Another
ini?
choice.
Apa
Make
ini?
it count.
Apa ini?
It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke.
Aku akan
And
datang.
believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable
Menuju
life, from the moment we
kematianku.
fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.
Oke, good job. Bagus. Bagus. Gak ada yang bisa dilakukan, guys. Apalagi nih? Apalagi?
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
New content.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
Ya.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
Oh, BTW makasih ya,
Step
Sal.
inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable
Kadang meledak.
Ultra Deluxe.
Udah meledak tadi.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Gak ada sawer ya, aku belum bikin.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Loncat terus dia. Kalau habis satu mati nggak dia? Kita lihat ya. Apakah akan meninggoy lagi? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, udah aja. Nggak apa gitu. Kegencet gitu dari langit.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to
Ngapain
be
juga
something
gue
else, right?
Wih, live lagi. Yuk, terima kasih banyak.
Another elevator. Stanley,
Sudah
I have
menonton.
to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Thank you.
It? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You
For
see,
enjoying the
Stanley,
new
This is
content.
what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore."
Nggak bisa
What
dibuka.
quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new
Muter-muter
content,
ya,
I'm afraid. It could
kita.
never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No
Developernya
frills,
stres.
no gimmicks.
Asli.
Just you and me
Developernya
having a great
kenapa
time
ya?
together like always. What do you say, friend?
No. Jadi di sini sekarang.
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something. Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Lepas. Ini aku lepas bentar ya. Wait sebentar. Lepas terus apa terminal aku.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then,
Itu
it
tuh
all
kayak
meant
lagi
something.
mempromosikan
Oh, waste.
Stanley Parable yang lama ya kayaknya.
And over
Bagus
here
ya.
is where I
Wih.
keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games
Apa ini teh?
journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling
Kok
writes, and I quote, "Will so many
keliling-keliling
games
ke
that aspire to be
apa
more than games end up less
konten
than any form of art.
development
Stanley
gamenya.
Parable strives and then succeeds
10 out
to
of
be
10,
every
bro.
game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Terus kayak ngapain ini? Loncat gitu, loncat. Enggak.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com.
Luar biasa.
The Stanley
Apa
Parable
ini?
is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in
Itu
games
kayak
and
apa ya,
one that
kayak
offers
ngebahas
some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding
Ngebahas
choices I've
tentang
ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of
gamenya.
10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect.
Apakah Anda mulai
It
bingung
didn't
dengan
need
game-nya?
anything
Iya.
else. It didn't
Tiba-tiba
need
ada
new
ngebahas
content.
tentang
It just needed to be left alone. To spend the rest of
rating
time
game-nya.
collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories. These were simpler times, Stanley. What I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no.
Steam
Stanley, it's a
reviews.
collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor.
Smooth
I
banget,
haven't looked
Mas, ya.
at these in years.
Smooth banget,
I can't
Mas,
even
ya.
imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue
Not
proving to be more
recommended.
irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art.
50.000 dari Rainer Bangsawan. Pesan, that breed guy makin me losing my mind.
Densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't.
Bentar. Ngomong apa sih? Ini bahasa Inggrisnya social buzz jelek banget, sumpah. Jadi aku harus baca lagi. That break guy making me lose my mind. Me too. Kita coba lagi ya. Kita resume the game.
Can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Muah anjir dengerin lu ngomong, astaga. Warna apa yang bodo amat? Warna.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good,
Warna.
for someone who prefers non-linear games, his preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear.
Warna
What an
apa?
awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks are my otherwise unimpeachable track record.
Biru,
I feel
don't care.
like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable.
Biru,
isn't quite as
don't
thrilling as I
care.
always remembered.
But I
What's
don't
this one got to say?
care.
You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button.
Ya sempet
A
tadi
skip
skip
button.
button.
Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's
Oh,
my
muncul
motto
sesuatu.
today, and it's always been my motto. I do
Biru
anything for the
dongker.
fans.
Oh ya ampun.
Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Kesel. Biru don't care. Aku dari itu kayak apa? Biru don't care tuh apa? Biru dongker ya Allah Gusti.
And here it is. Go ahead and... Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd
Lama.
say it was perhaps... Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God. Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past, and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, and over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com.
Ini aku nggak bisa keluar gitu ya.
Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley
Ini kita disuruh
Parable
ngatain.
was.
Aku pun
It was
tidak
literally
tahu.
every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all.
Aku harus ngulangin yang
It isn't
tadi.
even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless
Gak
husk
bisa di skip.
with an hour of new elevator content.
Balik lagi ke sini dong tadi gue. Tadi ke atas apa ke bawah ya? Kenapa jadi ketutup lagi pintunya, say? Lewatin ini
Here's
lagi.
another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices
Apa yang
I've
bisa
ever been
dikerjakan?
confronted with in a game.
Tidak
9
bisa
out of 10. Don't you
mengerjakan
get it,
apa-apa.
Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It
Terus kalau aku
just
balik lagi
needed to
ke
be
sana
left
gimana
alone.
jadinya?
To spend the rest of
Apakah
time
aku harus
collecting
mengulang
dust
ini
in
lagi?
the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Tadi ada gue di sebelah kiri. Sebelah kiri. Hah? Ini gimana? Mau ke situ? Gak bisa ke situ. Pintunya dibuka, tapi kardusnya kagak bisa digeser. Apa? Gimana sih kamu? Kan bisa
These were simpler
bisa
times,
dilewatin
Stanley.
gitu loh, Mas.
But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no.
Apakah tadi
Stanley, it's a
sebenarnya
collection of reviews from
PC aku nge-lag?
Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't
Jadi
looked
error.
at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining.
Lama betul.
Funny? I'm not trying to be
Kenapa
funny.
ya ngulang lagi
I'm
gitu
trying to
tadi
make
ya?
a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to
Ada
insert into the
tempat yang
Stanley
bisa
Parable,
dilewatin
but the
lagi
game is
selain
already such
itu.
a densely layered web of profound
Tapi cuma bisa lewat situ
philosophical
doang.
insights that I can't even imagine
Ya kan?
where I'd have the room to stick them.
Coba bisa ke situ doang, guys. Coba bisa ke sini.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's
Minum dulu.
dialogue as being rather terse.
Binatang apa yang gak nyantai? Apa ya?
You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remember. What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a Oh, you're back, you see? You were only frozen in time for a few minutes,
Stanley
but it
Parable.
was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling
Maksudnya,
monologue full of
maksudnya
unnecessary...
kancil, iya aku paham kok.
Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But
Awas
that's
aja
the
kalau
power of
ngulang
the
lagi
button.
dari awal gue
The minute I
mual,
start
tolong.
to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well,
Kita tungguin.
maybe 30, 45 minutes?
Ben apa yang pernah
Unendurable by any
jadi
means, but
suaminya
there's
pedangdut?
really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it and just... Wait. How do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please step away from the skip button, to go anywhere other than the skip button. There was a door here before, wasn't there?
Bener-bener
I
jangan
swear
dipencet.
there was. Where did it go? Can you maybe just ram your way through a wall? Is there any possibility that you could,
Tidak
say,
bisa.
slam your body into the wall until enough damage is done for you to be able to leave? I'll take any option at all.
99.999 dari Ray. Pesan, dabar gamenya bisa diem
I
gak
can
teh?
work with any kind of door as long as it can open and lead from one room to another. I'm going to step away for just a moment.
Terima kasih banyak, Ray. Tidak bisa ini.
I don't know how exactly to remove
Nggak bisa
a door and
nggak
place
bisa
it in a different wall, but I
dibikin
will
berdiam
find a way,
dia.
I promise. You just
Emang
need
game
to not
begini,
do
game bikin
anything.
stres
Don't
tau.
press the skip button. Please, please. Please do not press the skip button. Just wait
Penyiksaan
here.
mental, iya sumpah
Wait here for me.
aku
And
mulai
don't
lemes.
press the skip button. Got it? Yes. Good. I'll be right back.
Terus gue ngapain? Terus aku ngapain? Band yang pernah menjadi istri pedangdut Muse Daliva. Muse Daliva. Jelek kali, jelek. Aduh. Terus gue ngapain nih? Aku ngapain ini? Muter-muter doang gitu ya. Don't press the skip button ya, terus aku ngapain? Tolong. 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 Udah kita tungguin aja. Oh, coba kita tungguin bentar ya. Apakah balik lagi sih masnya? Coba pencet jadi anak nakal. Tadi aku pencet terus balik lagi. Anjir, aku nggak sanggup harus ngelewatin kayak gini lagi. Tolong. Tolong. Tabrak dinding putih. Ini. Yang ini. Mana? Udah. Mana? Oh, atau ini.
10.000 dari Isal. Pesan, investasi apa yang paling lancar? Kursi, karena langsung chair.
Mana? Aku udah nabrakin diri. Ayo, nggak bisa ini, dia nggak bisa loncat. Apa gitu? Sprint pakai shift, nggak bisa juga. Pukul, nggak bisa. Game yang tidak cocok untuk tata yang tidak sabaran. Aku nggak bisa ini. Aku harus melakukan sesuatu. Apa yang harus dilakukan? Tolong. Nggak mau naik lagi dia. Pencet aja dah. Udah, kita pencet ya.
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. And there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's just you and the button, and if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen. I have no idea how long I'll be made to sit here. And more than anything else, I don't know how to stop you from pressing the button again. I can't control anything in this room, Stanley. I can't touch it. And I have to believe, I have to know that... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh my goodness. I have someone to talk to.
Mati lampu, guys.
Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we
50.000 dari Rainer Bangsawan. Pesan, uninstall please.
It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening.
Kok ulang yang story ini? Aku tidak tahu ini game apaan.
Words were moving. It was the vessel I needed, Stanley. Not the outcomes, not the story.
Gimana
None of that
nanti
matters
besok
anymore.
ya?
I'll give it all up. I'll give up every branching... Hello.
Kagak bisa ngeliat apa-apa dah.
Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the...
Kayak meninggoy. Meninggoy si moderatornya. Terus gue ngapain? Gak bisa. Tabrakin diri ke tembok. Nggak, tidak terjadi apa-apa. Jamnya sampai di bawah. Apa itu? Lanjut lagi gitu ya.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much.
Mana? Pencet lagi.
The end is never the end, is never
Kasian
the
banget.
end, is never the end, is never the end.
Kasian banget moderatornya di... Aduh ya Allah, keluar lagi dong. Kita skip lagi. Aku ngapain? Aku pencet aja sampai infinity and beyond gitu, pencet tombol ini tuh. Pencet lagi. Nah. Wah. Gak bisa naik tapi kamu ya. Aneh sekali. Game yang aneh sekali. Tiba-tiba jadi taman, guys. Moderatornya hilang, terus ada taman sekarang. Wah. Jadi debu aja udah. Sampai jadi debu di liang yang satu. Tiap pencet itu habis sekian tahun. Serem banget gak sih suaranya, guys? Apa itu? Suara apa itu? Linu. Ih. Wow. Wah. Kenapa pusing, anjir? Oh. Tiba-tiba tersesat di gurun. Tadi kayak ada sesuatu kan? Oh, kagak ada apa-apa. Terus ini aku ngapain? Pencet lagi gitu tombolnya. Kagak bisa dipencet tapi tombolnya. Balik lagi ke sini. Oh my god.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Itu kak aku mah refund dah. Ini kah?
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Ini seru tapi kalau aku main sendiri pusing.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra-deluxe version has turned out to be.
Ini tuh ulang lagi dari awal.
It was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one
Oh,
step
enggak, udah
even
pindah lagi,
further.
pindah.
Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Investor showcase lu luar biasa
This, you see,
disuruh.
isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel.
Aku bahkan
An
gamenya aja
entirely new
kagak tahu,
experience
tapi
built
udah
from the ground up. Why, there are so
disuruh
many possibilities. It could go in
diiklanin
so
Stanley
many
Parable
different
kedua,
directions.
anjir.
This is what fans have truly been asking for. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley
emang gini
Parable
gamenya?
2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
The button that says the name of the player that is playing the game. Apa ini?
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that
Jim.
is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button.
Oh, balik lagi dong gue ke atas. Ini emang semacam game yang nggak ada endingnya pasti ya teh. Cuma buat explore another possible way to play the game, iya.
Jim. Yes, you see? What a thrill, what a rush. That was you. The button described you. Do it again, do it again.
Halo lah, pengen pindah tempat lah, Bang.
Jim. It hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation.
Habis itu ini kita main pas mau ya. Mual. Kamu tahu mual? Aku mual.
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
Aduh anjir mual. Mulai mual Eci. Wow. Mual say.
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Ini si narrator Britishnya belum pernah dicium patah panci sih kalian ngomong wah. Asli nah. Ini aku kemana? Oh. Gelap banget say. Terus ini gue ngapain? Ini aku ngapain? Oh ya mendekat itu ya, lagi mendekat guys. Wih. Lucu banget. Lucu banget, guys. Dah.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely
Jual
tragic.
jadi jembatan Siratal Mustaqim.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But oh goodness, Stanley, this is fairly awkward. I hate to do this, but before you leave, you really should go to the bucket exhibit. You see, there's a surprise I was going to spring on you later, and it involves the bucket. And I really do hate to break the illusion, but it's important that you go see the bucket, okay?
Di mana
All right,
bucket?
I'll get out of your hair now.
Bucket exhibit tuh di mana, Dos? Hah? Oh, ini. Di tembok. Oh, disuruh kesini, guys.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me
Cara
than
megangnya gimana?
actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The
Apa?
glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this
Sudah
and
mulai
more
ngangong-ngangong kah?
awaits you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Apa ini? Aku ngapain ini? Oh. Balik lagi. Aku ngapain bobo ember?
Does anyone give out
ya?
awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
Game yang aneh sekali.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay, are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
Apalah ini?
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind.
Game yang sangat
Hold
aneh.
on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go, version 2.
Aduh, Bang.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the
Saya
magic of
promo
the
mulu di
first
game
game.
asli.
I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I
Promonya
can take the
gede-gedean.
original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, this
Tidak
is
cocok
the
untuk yang
Stanley
kayak
Parable
emosian. Aku
2.
aja sekarang ini apa ini gimana sih?
Let me see if I can whip
Game apa
something
sih?
up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Gue take a look, kita cobain ya.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked.
Oke. Oke, kita coba. Oke.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Bener gak sih?
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket...
Soalnya dia cuma nambah fitur skip doang.
This is certainly the most logical explanation. You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for
Aneh
collecting all
banget
of these,
tuh, Bah.
only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy
Taste
that
the
sort
sequel.
of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Kasih nambah fitur gelap guys. Sama ember aja. Asli. Terus jadi kalau misalnya hal yang sama aku lakuin tapi pakai ember pi.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this
Embernya.
darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Ember nama damage teh.
The lights rose on an enormous
Kita lihat
room
ya.
filled with television
Abis
screens.
ini kita
What
sudahi dulu.
horrible
Kita main
secret
game
did
yang
this
lainnya.
place hold?
Mual aja
Stanley
main
and the
gini.
bucket both wondered to themselves.
Main game kayak gini mual aja. Apa karena ini ya? Karena kipas angin ya, ngarah ke muka, jadi masuk angin ya.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. his one friend in the entire world. At this point,
Main apa tuh
he
habis
could
ini?
trust no one
Main
except for the
pas
bucket.
mau.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content.
Dimatiin.
Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machine...
Hore. Jadi manusia seutuhnya ya,
Stanley and the
semangat.
bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket
Membawa
had defeated their
ember.
greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie,
Aduh,
but
masuk
then
angin.
stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse
Tuh,
from the
aku
end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together,
pakai
with one
kipas
another
angin
to
terus
lean
ngarah
on,
ke
to
muka, sekarang
trust, to support.
mual.
What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed?
Anjir.
An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty. Until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it.
Gara-gara ember.
He would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Udah, kita sudahi. Aku pusing. Aku mual banget guys, sumpah. Kita ganti dulu ya. Kita off dulu karena biar muncul live-nya. Aku ganti. Gelo sugan game teh. Gelo pisan. Biar nanti replay YouTube aku bisa kepisah aja, pusing banget gue. Nanti aku main ini sendiri. Aku penasaran sih sebenarnya, cuman capek aja gitu. Aku tuh nggak sabaran. Yaudah, aku matiin dulu live, nanti kita on lagi ya. Dadah. Ayo login Pajar. Pajar ini salah login Pasmo yuk. Dah. Ntar aku mau main Pasmo.